I've always been into old things, like you say, coins, comic books, cars. There's always something fun about taking something that somebody would look at and say like, man, there's just like, that thing is beyond, and bringing it back to life so people can enjoy it. And that's kind of my weird art form.
What's up, y'all? I'm Jake from Prism Supply. Welcome to our series, My Garage. In this episode, we're in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, featuring the man, the myth, the legend, Bill Rodencal. Bill is the collections lead at the HD Museum, a well-known motorcycle builder, a long-distance motorcycle rider, and a collector of anything vintage. Well, give us a rundown of the space. So your garage is almost broken up into two different sections.
Yeah.
You got like a shop section over here, and then on the other side it's museum, well-curated.
It's a small space, but it's mighty. I've produced a lot of bikes out of here. I only have one hoist, so I got, kind of got to start and finish one bike at a time.
Which is probably nice, though.
It is.
Keeps you from doing multiple projects at one time.
Right, and then you got 5 things going and none of them get done.
Right.
I don't have I don't have a big machine shop or anything like that. But I got enough to get the job done.
Right.
Yeah.
You can do pretty much everything here, right?
I do everything. I really do everything.
So, Bill, this is an old board track race bike, 1915, is what you were telling me earlier?
Yep, 1915 model 11 KT, twin track racer, twin cylinder track racer.
And you rode this bike across country?
I did. I rode this on the 2016 motorcycle Cannonball. We went from Atlantic City, New Jersey, all the way to Carlsbad, California.
How many miles was that?
3,300.
How long did it take you?
We did it in 16 days.
Oh my.
Yeah. I probably averaged about 43 miles an hour on this. This bike really went down the road great. It really did. And it's a crazy ride, but toughest thing I've probably ever done too,
Just the whole thing overall.
The whole thing. And you meet people that you become really tight with for the rest of your life.
That's right, lifelong friends.
Yeah.
And so you built this thing from scratch?
I did.
It was a complete bike when you got it, or? It
was not. I got an engine, and everything else I essentially, I did.
What's it feel like when you're on the track?
I have a good friend that has one, older guy. He says you're going to be going 45, maybe 60 miles an hour, and it's going to feel like you're doing 200. I'll never forget. I'm like, Kenny, that is exactly right. 60 feels like 100.
I also see a bunch of Grateful Dead stuff.
Yeah.
I've heard rumors that you've gone to over 100 Grateful Dead shows.
That there are truth to those rumors. So that's Grateful Dead shows when Jerry was alive, even.
Okay.
So
pre-95.
Pre-95, exactly. So between I've been to if you count concerts, just about, there's really no one I haven't seen. I've always been a music guy since, and that was my degree is actually, I got a degree in sound engineering with arts, entertainment, media management from Columbia in Chicago.
How'd you get into this?
My dad hated motorcycles, but my parents were big golfers and belonged to the local country club. So we'd go out there and, there's a row of 1970s 3-wheel gas Harley-Davidson golf carts. And so when I was a kid, I loved to go golfing because they'd let me drive the golf cart, and so I'd get to do that. And so that was like that was my first connection with Harley-Davidson. So, literally when I left Chicago after working down there, came back, had my own place, first thing I did is I bought a kind of a clapped out Sportster from this crazy guy just outside of Beloit, Wisconsin, and didn't know anything, and like, I got to figure this out,
Right.
And I remember being kind of intimidated. So I was like, okay, I figured it out, and then it just, 110% all in. I've always been into old things, like you say, coins, comic books, cars, old boats, old houses. There's always something fun about taking something that somebody would look at and say like, man, there's just like, that thing is beyond, and bringing it back to life so people can enjoy it. And that's kind of my weird art form, I guess. I love to, just take something and have that vision of like, this is what I want it to look like when I'm done.
You're obviously a vintage guy. Mm-hmm. One of my favorite things, as I've gotten to know you, is this is how true vintage you are. You don't even have a cell phone. Is that true?
That is 100% true. I do not own a cell. My wife has one. We don't have a landline. I've got a desk phone at work, and yeah, I don't own a cell phone.
That's right.
And I haven't, and so I do everything kind of old school. I do it with a digital camera and a laptop, so I can send messages through Facebook Messenger and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't own one. I'm the last man on earth. You know, no lights, no phone, no motor car.
Crazy. I love that so much.
I love the picture there that was literally, I'd been with Harley-Davidson for maybe 2 weeks. And those are the two guys I worked alongside when I started, Mike Millay and Tom Platz. But, you know, both huge mentors to me, and, you know, really, really cemented my, like, I'm doing the right thing. You know, it was tough, you know, to come to Harley. I wasn't looking for the job when I got it. I was happy at my family dealership. I was running it with my brother. Everything was great. You know, suddenly this opportunity happened, and it's like, oh boy, you know, this is going to be, you know, we're going to both pack our kids up and leave our family businesses and go to Milwaukee and do this completely different thing, you know, and it was you know, it was scary. Fortunately, 20 years later, I'm still here, you know.
It's an honor for me, like anytime I get to go to the museum, like I feel honored to be able to do that. It's really an honor for me tomorrow that you're going to give us like a private tour and show us a little behind the scenes.
Yeah, our museum proper is fantastic, but you know, it's always kind of like fun when you get to go to the places that the average person can't go. So we'll do that. We'll pull some boxes, and I'll put my white gloves on, and we'll dig through some boxes, and we'll pull some neat stuff out, and we'll have fun.
I can't wait. Well, thanks for your time today.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thanks for coming.
See you tomorrow.
Will do.
Bill, yesterday we got to see your home garage, and then today we get to see Harley-Davidson Museum, where you work. This is your 9 to 5.
My 9 to 5, my everyday.
And what do you do here?
I always say I'm kind of the caretaker of the company's historic bike collection, but I also get involved in, you know, a myriad of different things on a daily basis. I get involved with acquisitions. I get involved with conservation of the bikes. I get involved with using the collection to support other entities within the company. They kind of, the code name, it's the bike vault.
The bike vault. So there's storage of a bunch of bikes on one side of it. There's also a shop space.
Correct.
What happens in the shop space?
A majority of our bikes are all bikes that they've saved since brand new, off the assembly line, put in the collection. They've never been run. So we don't really restore. Some of the older bikes we get involved in conservation of, which is essentially take it apart, get rid of decades worth of grime on it, put it back together. We don't repaint, we don't replate. We believe it's only original once, and we want to keep it that way. When we finally brought the collection back to Milwaukee in the late 90s, you know, it was a conscious effort, like, we got to get these bikes kind of prepped. So now, for the first time, they're really in their own physical space, where we take a look at, you know, temperature, humidity, light levels. They're just in a better kind of state of storage. Motorcycles are real unique because they have so many different materials in them. You know, aluminum, iron, leather, rubber, and all those materials like different humidity levels. Rubber likes things actually, you know, more moist, and iron likes it dry. So we got to kind of find a happy medium. And but we really have that here, and they're probably in the best environment they've been in their entire lives. You know, it's a small shop. Since we don't do any like engine rebuilding or anything like that, we really don't have, you know, like a boring bar up here or anything like that. We've got, you know, a bead blaster in there, and drill press, grinding wheels, and, you know, got a mineral-based parts washer in there. But for the most part, it's really elbow grease that when you do it, you know.
I love the specialty tools like that. The original Harley-Davidson specialty tools.
Yeah, and there's some great ones here too. This is the greatest base wrench in the world.
Yes.
And it's a piece
They're
of pipe.
so hard to get to.
They are so hard to get to, and someone made this, and I tell you what, this is like
The best
by far. You know, and you talk about your 10 favorite things. That's
one for you.
That's the best wrench I've ever used in my life. The racking system where our bikes are on, so each of these racks are ganged together in groups of 2, so I can split it every other rack. I can actually move, you know, one set of racks, or I can move this whole section at once.
Oh, I see.
They're 3 high, 6 deep, And so about 315 motorcycles, give or take, in here right now. We've got room for about 345, so there's some room for growth in the future.
What's your favorite bike in this racking system?
What day is it? You know, that's, people ask me, that's the number one question I get. What's your favorite bike in the collection? And you know, I kind of have like a top 5 that even rotates around. There's just, you know, it's such a great collection, and then new things happen and new bikes come in, so you know, things get displaced. It's kind of like, what's your favorite kid, you know? But when we knew the museum was coming, we needed more bikes that had stories, you know, great personal stories, or stories that you know, maybe it's a historic race bike, maybe it's a celebrity bike, movie bikes, all those sorts of things. So we, you know, enhanced the collection by adding those. And as we added those, it really took on a different persona. And so a lot of those are great bikes too.
So Bill, right now we're in your secret vault-ish area, and you have a little bit of every single artifact that's not motorcycle related? Is that
Exactly.
accurate?
Yeah, so this is small artifact storage. So this is what I always tell people, essentially anything that's not a motorcycle. So that can be anything from, you know, owner's manuals to marketing literature to clothing, pins, watches, fobs, you know, artwork, film, video. You know, this row here, you're looking at original owner's manuals, service manuals. These are motorcycle publications that we have. So, you know, everything from the Motorcyclist to motorcycling, bicycling news that go back to 1903. You know, one binder here, and pop it open, and, you know,
Crazy.
there's original factory photographs. And these are the raw shots, because you can see they're in the photo studio and the bike's kind of propped up, and, you know, there'll be different versions. You can grab a binder back here and pop it open, and at random, and here we are in 1912, same thing.
Crazy.
It's pretty amazing.
And all original prints.
These are all prints off the original negative. We still have the negatives. Most of the negatives, silver nitrate ones, are stored in a large commercial walk-in freezer. So we store them at 0 degrees to kind of prolong their life as long as we can. This is all, believe it or not, these large boxes are clothing and textiles. So that's just clothing and textiles through the years. So that's everything from, you know, old time riders caps to like hog t-shirts from recent rallies or anniversary, you know, examples of special paint. This was a special edition series. They made 1,000 sets of these that you could buy in 1979. So, you know, there's an example. You got fenders with it as well.
As I've told you a million times, you have an incredible space, and a lot of people would love to have your job. What kind of advice would you give anybody wanting to get into that?
You know, probably the most influential thing for me was finding a good mentor. You know, I knew I was all in. I was excited about motorcycles, and I was in. So now you have to find someone that's, you know, kind of spent their time, paid their dues, that's willing to kind of supplant that knowledge into you, you know. And I found a great one. He knew I was hungry. He got, you know, excited by that, and really made a difference in, you know, accelerating, kind of like, you know, pouring gas on that, you know, that fire that I had within me, and really making it happen. And you know, that's pretty huge. And it's sometimes tough to do, but if you have that passion, you know, I believe that sometimes that person will find you.
So we asked Bill if he could give us a little private tour of the museum. He's going to show us his favorite things.
You bet, my pleasure. It's something I love doing. This is the world's only twin cylinder 1909. And, you know, this is probably, you know, the rarest Harley-Davidson in the world. 26 of these were made, 25 of them were recalled to the factory and destroyed because it had an atmospheric valve and just didn't perform like it was supposed to. This 1915 right here is definitely right up pretty high on the list. This is the nicest 1915 11J in the world.
Which is the same bike that you rode cross country?
Essentially, this is the civilian version. So in 1915, our first 3-speed transmission, our first full electrics on the bike. So you got headlamp, taillight, horn, really a kind of a super pivotal point in Harley-Davidson's history.
Where's the 36 knuckle? Is it not over?
In the room, you want to do that one? It's in
I think it's like a turning point.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
Yeah. It's probably, would you say, 36 knuckle is one of the most desirable sought-after bikes.
By far, yeah. The 36 knucklehead is
beautiful.
The definition of Harley timelessness. Yeah. And if you look, shapes and proportions, the teardrop tank, that profile, we still see that. The dash incorporated onto the tanks, that triangular line.
Yep.
Even in our soft tail, they replicated that same
line.
shape and proportion because that line is right. And that's really, quintessential Harley-Davidson. Look good in 1936. I mean, this bike looks good today. Probably our most desirable, Harley-Davidson in 120 years. So what's really neat, you look at the photograph of the four founders kind of looking at this, and they're, that's the first one off the line. That was a pretty pivotal moment. They're saying, we're going all in, and this could be huge for us, or it could be a tremendous disaster. And, history shows us, of course, that, that was really a great turning point in Harley-Davidson. It really changes the landscape of motorcycling for Harley-Davidson. It's really still what we do today. I mean, it's 45 degree, air-cooled, pushrod actuated, internal combustion engine.
There's something to be said about staying true to the design from 36 or even early 1900s.
It's the jewel of our motorcycle. It's they always describe that's what it is. And
I was telling you earlier that one of my favorite rooms here is the clubs and competition room.
Yep, by far. My favorite gallery in the entire museum. And I just, what's so great about it is that there's so many different topics that are covered. Not only do we talk about, early board track racing, we talk about, dirt track, cinder track, we talk about jack pine off-road racing, we talk about hill climbing in here, we talk about club activity, we talk about motorcycle touring in here, the early gypsy tours, that whole camaraderie, hey, we all got this is a great sport, let's get on our bikes and ride together. And that's that whole spirit is really, this room speaks to that whole thing.
I think it's cool, just you can see a little bit of everything. You can see like this wild custom double knucklehead bike, you can see a perfect stock bike, you can see a race bike, a hill climb bike, you can see Evel Knievel's bike. There's just so much you can see.
Right, Elvis Presley's bike, the bike from Terminator,
right.
I mean, it's just wherever you look, there's something. What's new is old and what's old is new. There's really nothing that this company hasn't seen over the years, whether it's wars, depressions, recessions, all of that was documented pretty well. And so, the old saying, those who choose to ignore history are condemned to repeat it. We have that history at our hands, so, we don't forget.
Bill, it was truly an honor to be able to do this. Seriously, it feels like a once-in-a-lifetime experience. Nobody gets to do this with you personally. Thank you so much. Where can we find more out about you or the museum?
So museum, hdmuseum.com, of course, or Facebook, Instagram, you can follow those. If you want to find out more about me, you can follow me on Fat Dog Racing 67 on Instagram. It was my pleasure.
Appreciate you, Bill. Thank you so much.
Thanks.